Charles says, hello. I was wondering how much knowledge of computers do you need in order to get a job in cybersecurity dealing with risk management? If you want to get a certification in CompTIA Security Plus, would I need to be knowledgeable in A plus or be able to know how to hack? I'm getting a bachelor's degree in information assurance, criminal justice, education, and interdisciplinary studies. Would that help? Okay, he's got a couple. Seems like he's got a couple questions here, and I think I actually answered this one last week about interdisciplinary studies. But let me be more specific on this one because I think that this question, there's a few questions here that I can answer a little bit better than I did last week. So he says, first question is, I was wondering how much knowledge of computers do you need in order to get a job in cybersecurity dealing with risk management? Okay, so that's a good question. Risk management, typically you need, it's like a second tier job. Because here's why I say that. Even though it doesn't have to be super technical. Here's the thing about risk management framework. It's a lot of management type stuff. It's a lot of meetings. It's a lot of documentation. It's not like a lot of hands-on configuring systems usually. But I have done both before in certain roles. But risk management itself requires you to have kind of like be a jack of all trades. And that's why it's kind of like a second tier type position, meaning you should already have some IT experience before you get in the risk management framework. Here's what I would say. There's a couple things that I always ask people whenever they ask me about risk management. Number one, are you a U.S. citizen? The reason why that's important because most risk management jobs, many risk management jobs require you to be a U.S. citizen because they require you to be eligible for some type of security clearance. Now, that being said, you do have public trust clearances and you do have jobs that don't actually require a security clearance. But I know if you can't get a clearance because you're not a citizen, it's going to be much harder to get a risk management job. Another thing for risk management is this shouldn't be your first job in IT. And the reason I say that because a risk management person needs to have a pretty solid understanding of information technology. So typically a person comes from either being in IT for some time, like a couple years in IT, like a help desk job or customer support for doing IT and stuff like that. So you have an understanding of things like you have a very solid foundation for networking, for fixing how computers work, hardware, how the software works. You have a fundamental understanding of that. Those are needed because you have to know how a person could exploit certain weaknesses, and you have to be able to identify certain weaknesses and security best practices and why you need those security best practices. To just expand on that, why are risk management people usually not super technical, or why is there a mixture of some people who are technical and some people are not? Meaning when I say technical, I mean like hands-on. Because it's dealing with a lot of regulations. Like it's dealing with a lot of like federal regulations or state regulations or industry standard regulations and stuff like that. And then you have to really know a lot of that kind of stuff and how it applies to IT. And that's why you need kind of both of those things. I hope that answers your question. I would say be a U.S. citizen, be eligible for a security clearance, have about 1 year, one solid year of some sort of IT hands-on experience, so understand IT. And other things they look for is like a bachelor's degree, but I've seen people not have a bachelor's degree, so that's kind of, it depends. And then sometimes they'll look for like a certification of some type. You mentioned Security Plus, that's usually one of the ones they look for, or a CAP, or CISSP, or CASP. Those are some of the top ones right there. So let me answer your next question. You said, if I want to get a certification in CompTIA Security Plus, would I need to know the A plus or be able to hack? If we want to get, so you're asking a question about Security Plus. So Security Plus has some requirements, which I can bring up right now. Let me see. Security Plus requirements. I don't think you have to have the A plus certification. to get to the Security Plus, I do know that there are prerequisites, but I think it has to do with like being in the industry in IT for like 2 years. I think that's one of the requirements. I'm just kind of going off the top of my head here. Okay, here we go. Although Security Plus, let me see if you can see that. Make sure you can see that. All right. CompTIA covers network security concepts, threat, vulnerability, access control, identity management, cryptography, and more. Although CompTIA does not impose any prerequisites, okay, there you go, there's no prerequisites. The organization recommends the cert candidate obtain a Network Plus credential and have at least 2 years of IT administration experience with a security focus. So there you go. So to answer your question, there's no prerequisites. You don't have to have an A plus. They recommend that you have 2 years of experience. They recommend that you take the Network Plus. That said, having taken it a couple times, I took the old one and then I had to retake it to like teach the new version of the test like years ago. So having had the Security Plus for a very long time, I would say you need to go in before you take it. I would have like a year of experience in IT, any kind of IT experience, or 6 months. Like you don't even need a lot of experience for it, but it's really helpful to actually have some grasp of how IT works. And then another thing is that includes network stuff. You don't have to do a Network Plus. You don't really have to, but if you need to know networking to some extent. What else would I say for Security Plus? You could really just walk in cold and take it. It's not super hard of a test. You could just read a bunch of books, study online, watch videos, and you could probably take it. But I don't recommend that. You should really have hands-on experience to get a better grasp of what you're doing. So that would be my recommendation to you. Let me see your last question here. Oh, and do you need to be able to hack? No, you don't. You would not need to be able to hack to take the Security Plus. That's for sure. Knowing some concepts about hacking is helpful because they will go into that. They'll go into like different cybersecurity threats, different cybersecurity vulnerabilities, different kind of malware. They will go into those things, but you don't have to actually have a hands-on knowledge of hacking. Okay, so next question you said was, I am also getting a bachelor's in information assurance, criminal justice, and education with interdisciplinary studies. Would that help? Yeah, any kind of education you get helps. Any kind of degrees you get definitely helps. There's no replacement for, as I say all the time on the channel, there's no replacement for experience. That's the very best thing you can get. But the bachelor's degree is definitely helpful. And information assurance is a very good one to get. Criminal justice, so I have a criminal justice degree. Probably the only thing that I would say has helped me on is my experience as doing physical security has helped me. But criminal justice itself hasn't really helped a lot. Not really. There's a little bit of crossing over between cybersecurity policy and compliance and criminal justice in that some of the laws, there's some laws that you would know on one or the other, like I can't remember off the top of my head, not FISMA, but there's a couple of laws that talk about if you were to hack into this system, how many years you'd get in prison. So there's a couple of laws that kind of cross over from one to the other, but overall you don't need a criminal justice degree. It's just really not going to help that much. Education would help you to be a teacher if you happen to want to teach information assurance or computer science or something like that. That would help. But hope that answers your questions.